Raider Nation, what's going on? Tyree Wilson is coming off of probably his best game against Minnesota, had a decent game against the Chargers, and what does the NFL do? They slap him with a random drug test. The first thing that comes to mind is, what do the young kids say now? Um, Tell me the NFL hates the Raiders without telling me the NFL hates the Raiders. Well, there you have it. I mean, you know, finally our first round draft pick starts to catch a little steam, starts to find some success, and the NFL's got to figure out why it's happening. They got to make sure they check that box to make sure that they can put us in check if they need to. And so, but it gives me an opportunity to kind of jump on here and talk about Tyree. We got 3 games left. We just got done just absolutely beating the crap out of the Chargers, which was just one of the best games I've seen, one of the most enjoyable games I've seen in a very long time. So, if you like that game, if you loved watching it, like this video, subscribe, turn on those notifications. I definitely appreciate it. But let's talk about Tyree for a second because, one thing I noticed throughout the box is he didn't start. He didn't start the game against the Chargers. Malcolm Kuntz got the start, and he didn't start in the second half. And one guy that was actually getting more playing time than I've seen was Janarius Robinson. So Janarius Robinson was a guy that was signed on to our practice squad. I think it was week 10 roughly, and then he was elevated to the 53-man roster just a couple weeks ago. And he's starting to get some decent playing time. And so even though Tyree Wilson is coming off the best game that he's had playing against Minnesota, he's still not getting the start against the Chargers. And so that to me is pretty concerning. It looked like he only played anywhere between 80-85% of the snaps. 80% of those snaps were on the edge, and then you saw him kind of play in the interior a little bit. But, one of the things that I'm seeing is that Tyree Wilson, he is still very slow off the ball. He's still one of the last guys to get his hand off the ground when the ball is snapped. He's still completely one-dimensional. He's struggling. Now, look, last week, I think that worked. Last week, even though he was one-dimensional, coming off the edge really didn't help him. And even one of the sacks that he got wasn't necessarily because of him. It was Malcolm Kuntz kind of helping off of that edge as well as Max Crosby. But one of the things is that against Minnesota, I don't think because Minnesota never saw Tyree Wilson play on the interior, I don't think they were ready for it. And so they didn't really prep for it that week. And Tyree Wilson, he is big. He is athletic. He's a strong human being. He was able to kind of, power his way in that backfield with that bull rush that he has. And again, I don't think they were prepared for it. They didn't work on it because they never saw it. The difference is this week, the Chargers saw it against Minnesota, and they prepared for it. And that really limited what Tyree Wilson was able to do. Now, one of the good things about Tyree Wilson is you're not going to knock him back. He's way too big. He's way too strong. You're not going to knock him back. But the thing is this week, Tyree Wilson struggled a little bit, kind of getting into that interior, getting past that interior offensive line. Those guards are doing a really good job of just squaring them up, getting their shoulders on them, getting their hands on them. And he wasn't able to penetrate the offensive line like he did against Minnesota. And so that was a little bit of concern that I had. And another thing that I think what I'm noticing is because Patrick Graham is kind of using him in different ways, I think Patrick Graham is trying to figure out how does he use him. Obviously it helps when Malcolm Kuntz is on the outside and doing as well as he's doing this year. But as a coach, I coached this game for quite a while. Sometimes when you have a talented player, you have a player that can help you, but he's not playing to the best of his ability or he's not showing up like you like him to, sometimes you got to switch it up. And I think that's what Patrick Graham's doing. I think he's trying to figure out how can I use this kid to get the best out of him and to help this defensive unit. And I think he's trying to figure that out. And it is unfortunate because he's a top 10 pick, right? We picked him in as our first round draft pick last year. He's a top 10 pick, and we expected just a little more out of him. Yes, I know that he had an injury. He wasn't able to play, really practice in the offseason. And so there was going to be that learning curve. But we're now 3 games until the end of the season, and you want to see just a little bit of progress, right? You want to see him just get that 1% to 2% better every single week. And unfortunately, I just don't know if we're seeing that. So, but in addition to just him still being very one-dimensional, him still being the last to get out of his stance at the snap, Patrick Graham, I think, trying to figure out where this kid can actually play and benefit us. The one thing that I'm really concerned about is just his lack of emotion on the football field. And if you go back and look, right, one of the best plays that we had against the Chargers was the pick 6 that Jack Jones had. One of the best pick 6s I've ever seen. The entire defensive unit, when Jack Jones picked that ball off and got into the end zone, you had Amik Roberts, which plays the corner opposite of Jack Jones, the corner on the other side of the field. When Jack Jones picked that ball off and ran the end zone, you can see Amik Roberts sprinting from the other side of the field to go and congratulate Jack Jones. Go back and look what Tyree Wilson does. Tyree Wilson was the second closest player to Jack Jones when he made that pick and was running in the end zone. And Tyree Wilson doesn't even go over and celebrate with him. You know, playing football, not just football, but specifically the defensive side of the ball, it is full of emotion. You have to have emotion. You have to have passion. You have to have a drive in order to play this game, especially on the defensive side. And that's one thing I'm not seeing in a Tyree Wilson. It doesn't look like he has that emotional side to him to be a damn good defensive player. You see the emotion pour out of a guy like Max Crosby. You see the emotion pour out of Amik Roberts. You know, you see the emotion pour, out of some of these top tier players. And Tyree Wilson just does not look like he's having fun. He doesn't look like he has that desire to want to get to the ball or even be a part of this unit. You know, this is one of the best defensive units we have had in a very long time. And one of the things that you get out of that is you get the emotional side. You get guys that want to fight to be good, to fight to be a good unit. It's not individual play. You want to fight to be a damn good unit, and you are happy when you're excited when the man next to you makes that big play because you know he made that play. That means the unit is becoming better. But I'm just not seeing it at Tyree. I mean, that was a damn good, one of the best pick 6s I've ever seen. And Tyree Wilson didn't even go over and celebrate, even though he was one of the closest guys to Jack Jones when he made that pick. So those are the kind of things that I see. Those are things that I notice that are away from the ball, maybe not part of, the play or what have you. But when you have a guy that literally is almost emotionless on the field, that concerns me on whether or not he's going to be able to take his game to a level to be that elite player, that first-round draft pick that you expect him to be. So at the end of the day, I hope he figures it out, okay? I hope he figures it out. And let me know in the comments below. Do you think he's going to figure it out? How much time do you think we need to give him to figure it out? Let me know in the comments below. But he's got 3 games. He's got 3 games to show us that he can get just that 2-3% better every single game. Because if he doesn't, you got Malcolm Koonce that is on his heels. Malcolm Koonce wants that job. And as of right now, he's earning it. He is earning it. I'd much rather see Malcolm Koonce on that field than Tyree Wilson at this point. And the other guy that I mentioned previously in the video, and I'm going to mention one more time, is Janarius Robinson, number 97. I want you guys to watch him in the next few games because I think he's going to get quite a bit of playing time. He got roughly around 12 to 15 plays against the Chargers. And now look, he's not as athletic as Tyree Wilson, but he's just as big. He's about 6'5", 280. He's a big guy. But the one thing I'm seeing out of him, he's not as athletic. He's still pretty raw. He came off the practice squad, but he's got a motor. I mean, you can tell he wants to get to the ball carrier. And he's fighting for it. And right now, I will take that want, that fight, that emotion over what I see in Tyree Wilson. Of course, we got to see Tyree Wilson on the field. We got to do everything possible to get the best out of him because we did we did invest a first-round draft pick into him. So I'm not saying don't play Tyree Wilson. What I'm saying is Tyree Wilson better start stepping up his game because he's got guys on his heels that want to take his job. So I just want to jump on and talk about it. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Again, if you could, please subscribe, like the video, turn on those notifications so you know when I drop more content. I'll be dropping more videos here this week, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me. We got the Chiefs coming up. Huge game in Arrowhead. We got to make sure we take it to them. We got to go 3-0 the rest of the season. So appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm out.